Political newcomer and Oakland native in the running to be vice president of these United States, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has named Nicole Shanahan as his pick for vice president.
And joining us live right now, Sonoma State University political science professor David McCuan. Good morning. Thank you for being here because we have a lot of questions, really about how this third-party ticket could affect the election. But we do want to start off and just talk a little bit about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as a candidate.
All right. If you think about RFK, right, environmental activist, lawyer, writer, this is someone who has always been a contrarian about politics. And so this third party run that we see that he's on the ballot officially in only one state, and that's in Utah. But he has enough signatures to get on the ballot in 3 other states. And then his vice presidential candidate that he announces yesterday has a lot of resources that can help buoy him to get on additional states. Most of those states, almost all of them, are Democratic states or states that Democrats barely won in 2020. So given his kind of contrarian politics, this is a guy who melds some elements of the Democratic Party, particularly with African-American men, and someone who also melds parts of the Trump base and the libertarian side of the Republican Party. So this third-party run, he wants to mimic this in key states and particularly kind of rebuild some elements of what we saw in 1992 with Ross Perot, what we saw in 1980 with John Anderson. It's just a hard way to go as a third-party candidate in American politics.
Well, and we should note that major names in the Kennedy family have said they will not support his run for the presidency. So you have to wonder what they think this morning in his VP pick, obviously somebody from the Bay Area. Let's talk about that pick and what the strategy is behind that selection, because we knew he had a few of the big names in the running as well.
Right. I mean, he talked about Jesse the Body Ventura. He talked about Aaron Rodgers. He talked about Tulsi Gabbard, just like Donald Trump has talked about Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii. But to settling on Nicole Shanahan is someone who a lot of resources, a lot of that from Sergey Brin, her ex-husband, co-founder of Google. This is someone who's contributed to RFK Jr.'s campaign. Also someone who's a newcomer in politics, but she's also an expert in AI. So this gives a kind of an idea of where Kennedy's thinking is at. He's kind of leaning in to new voter groups, kind of carving off some of those voter groups, particularly from the Democratic base, but also someone who is going to face the spotlight of politics, a place she hasn't been because she hasn't had to really face much of that scrutiny. It'll be interesting to see how that all develops and if they can get on the ballot in a certain number of states. They need to get on the ballot in at least 6 states, if not something like 15 to 18, which is their goal.
And if that happens, it's really going to be interesting to see, and tell us your thoughts on this, on the impact, this third party will have on Biden and Trump as we move forward.
Yeah, Gianna, I think one thing to pay attention to is what happens in states like Georgia or Michigan. We've seen some votes that have happened in Minnesota, Washington, Michigan, and Georgia that have been kind of contrarian or difficult for Democrats, particularly on issues around with young people, around Gaza and what's happening there with Israel. And the Biden team, student loans, variety of different issues that have been difficult to draw out their base and build up enthusiasm. This is exactly what Kennedy wants to tap into. You then have Donald Trump in and out of courtrooms. They'll go after that as well. They're trying to get a voter segment and create this third party called We the People that can be out there and provide an alternative. If that happens in those key states, Donald Trump has tapped out about 46, 47%. Joe Biden's going to have lower enthusiasm. He'll be down. And then that provides a place where a third party candidate, like in 2000, like in 2016, can be consequential, can be a wrecking ball for Democrats in their attempt to get reelected for Joe Biden or to really win the White House. This is what we saw with Ralph Nader. This is the worry with Jill Stein or Cornel West. And this is Kennedy's lane kind of moving forward to be consequential as that potential wrecking ball.
Such a fascinating time, and fascinating to note in some of that video we just rolled with President Joe Biden, Maria Shriver behind him.
Wow.
Exactly.
Supporting him. This is also a family dynamic story and a family political dynasty story, and a split there. Professor David McCuan, we want to bring you back a lot in the coming months. We always like to have you get up early this morning. And again, you have the nicest backdrop there. You must live right over there by the Golden Gate Bridge.
I have a beautiful view every morning of the bridge.
And you keep your windows clean, obviously. Thank you so much, Professor. All right.